Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to look at loose graded vintage Star Wars figures. We've got some UKG and AFA graded items, and some of these were like very high grade, like AFA 90s. So I don't know if my video capture software is going to work or not, but for some of the AFA 90s that sold for big money, I also did pull up that great spreadsheet that Patreon supporter Jason Woods put together, and we can go and look at the population report for that particular figure. I don't know if it's going to work, so if it doesn't, I'm sorry, but we're going to give it a try. Let's start off with some UKG items. The first one is a painted helmet Boba Fett, the Taiwan, and that's a pretty rare figure. I mean, not rare, but it's an expensive variant of Boba Fett. The painted helmet Taiwan that appeared on Return of the Jedi card backs. And this one was graded UKG 80%. You can see the painted helmet there. Just a weird variation. I don't know why they decided to paint the helmet on that one. But this is the Taiwan painted helmet, and it was a buy it now situation, and it sold for $475 in pounds, and that's 618 US dollars. That's Treasures from the Attic was the seller there. That's a seller I bought from in the past. Been very, very happy with their items. He always, or she always, gets really awesome high grade figures, lots of foreign variants, things like that. So if you don't have them on your saved seller list on eBay, you might want to do that if you're into foreign variants like, I don't know, Lily Letty, Spanish Pox, Spanish PvP, and these kind of things, like the painted helmet Boba Fett. Here was a no COO Bosk, so this would be like the figure that appeared in the Tri-Logos or on Palatoy card backs. That's one I don't have. I'm going to have to get that one soon, I think. That one sold. It was a very reasonable price of 99 pounds, 128 US dollars. That was a very reasonable price. I actually had it in my cart to buy, and I was just kind of disgusted with myself with how much I've bought lately. So I said, I'll get it a different time. I'll get it a different time, like next year. But this one is the no CO. I just find it hard to get this one in a high grade. It just doesn't seem to pop up that much, but nice looking variant there. On to another Bosk. All right, so let's try it out. I don't know if it's going to work, but this is an 85 plus olive head glossy paint Bosk Hong Kong, and that one sold for $237. And when we get to some of these others that Brown's 88 sold that are in high grade, I do want to check it out. But for curiosity, let's look up Bosk in this great spreadsheet that that Jason was kind enough to put together. Olive head gloss paint Hong Kong. So here it is. So the 85 is there, and so it looks like, let's see, I'm losing my place here. Yeah, so there's only 14 of them. 14 of them in an 85 plus, 15 90s, and then one that is a 90 plus. So I've got one of the 15 AFA 90s. And that's interesting, is that the AFA 85 pluses and the AFA 90s are pretty similar in count. So that's an interesting side note there. But that one is, how many there are for that one. So that's, one of 14 is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool item to have. And $237 was a great price there. Here was an 85 R2-D2, fairly easy to find that one in an 85. That one still sold for $384. That's a pretty big number there. Here is one I wanted to look up. All right, we're going to look up this one on the population report. But this was a Hong Kong Han Solo AFA 90. AFA 90, so very high grade, and it sold for $658. So my gut says that when we look this up on the Excel spreadsheet, that there's not many of these in a 90. So let's go take a look and see if we can find Han Solo Bespin under H Han Solo Bespin Hong Kong, Kenner Hong Kong. So yeah, the 90s, there's only 8 of them available, 8 of them. So that's 1 of 8 on the census for Han Solo Bespin Hong Kong. So again, you're buying the rarity. And does this one in a 90 go for $658 before the population reports were available again from AFA? My feeling is no. I think there's no chance at all. I think it would go for like $400, somewhere in that ballpark. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just wanted to at least point that one out. All right. Next up, we got a lettered saber Darth Vader Hong Kong. So standard Hong Kong, but it is a lettered saber. and it sold for $280. You know, a standard Hong Kong non-lettered saber goes for like $250. So you got an extra $30 or so that you're paying for the early saber variation there. $280 on that one. Here's another 90 that we'll look up. So this is the beige torso Hong Kong Admiral Akbar. That one sold for $313. Now, there have been several 90s that have sold in the last year or so for Admiral Akbar that have not approached anywhere close to $313. Admiral Akbar beige torso, I think that would be under A. Admiral Akbar beige torso Hong Kong, AFA 90. So it's one of 53. One of 53. So that one's a pretty easy one to find in the 90 grade. And the interesting thing is the 85 pluses are actually less than the 90s. There's 33 85 pluses, 297 85s, and 53 90s. So almost about 10% of all beige torso Hong Kong Admiral Akbars have gotten a 90. So it's very easy to get a 90 for that one. And, so 313, obviously a lot less than what the 90 for Han Solo went for, given the rarity. Here's another really nice snow trooper. This one is the joined visor with the COO on the leg, 85 plus on that one, so very high grade. That one sold for $366. We got an 85 plus orange eye for the FX7 medical droid. That one only sold for $119.50. So, again, even in an 85 plus, that one went for a lot less than what I would have expected. So orange eye FX7 orange eye 85 plus. It's sold. There's only 17 of them. 17 of those in an 85 plus and only 12 90s with none higher. So to me, this one was a steal. To get one of 17 with only 12 graded higher for $120, that was a bargain. So I think that, that Excel spreadsheet, or just go to AFA's website yourself, set up a free account, and you can look up the population reports on these if you're thinking about bidding on one. But to get one in such a low population for $120, I mean, that's what I would pay for an 85, right? Pretty good deal there. All right, here's another one I want to look up. This is a curved brown eyes Hong Kong flesh face Imperial Commander. I don't know if he broke it out this specific, but we'll see. This is an AFA 90. It sold for $460. And so the Imperial Commander flesh face, and that one is flesh face curved brown eyes. Flesh face curved brown eyes. Here we are. He's got every single variant broken out here. It's crazy. In a 90, see, on this one, it says there's not any. So I'm probably looking at the wrong one. Curved eyes, curved brown eyes. Okay, so this is the right one. So interestingly, this one is the first 90 that has popped up. This spreadsheet that Jason put together was from July, early August time frame. So this 90 must have been freshly graded because, at least according to Jason's spreadsheet, there wasn't any 90s available. So that's the first 90 that has popped up with only one higher, and to get it for $460 feels like a good deal to me. Feels like the right price for a tough to find variant of a 1 of 1 in a 90 with only one higher. Nice buy there. Here was an 85 plus AT-AT Commander. I would bet there's a lot of these available in an 85 plus, but we're going to take a look at it here in a second. So this is the AT-AT Commander, no COO as well. Tougher to find the no COO in an 85 plus. Now, that's one thing that Jason did mention to me when he sent me this spreadsheet, is that interestingly is that the no COOs, there's fewer of them that have been graded by AFA, which makes sense, right? Because most of the no COOs were over in Europe, or all of them really, and most of them, I'd say. Some of them probably did appear on U.S. Kenner cardbacks, but they probably got sent to UKG for the most part to get graded. So, but he did say that the ones that did get graded by AFA, they tend to be in higher grade. So there's a lower population of them, but they tend to be in higher grade. So let's confirm that theory with this AT-AT Commander here. So AT-AT Commander, no COO, and this one is not the flesh face. This is just the regular. And yeah, you can see here, there's less of them, but they're pretty high grade for the most part. I wouldn't say that it's particularly hard to get one, right? Because if you look at the 85s, 85 pluses, and 90s for the no COO for this particular figure, there's 51 of them. So 51 of the total 83 that have been submitted to AFA for grading have gotten an 85 or better. And so that kind of supports the theory, in my opinion. Basically, let's call that 80% or thereabouts, 70% of them that have been submitted have gotten an 85 near mint plus score or better. So I guess that kind of supports the argument there. So that one was an 85 plus. That's one of 6 with only 5 graded higher. To get it for $123.50, again, that's, these are the kind of bargains that you can look out for. I just think that, the lower population report figures are a good one to look out for. So here's a red hair Leia in an 85. Very easy to find that one. 184. I think that was a very fair price there. A year ago that was more like 250. So that one went for a lot less. Here's an 85 Luke Hoth. That's a really tough one to get in an 85. 158.50. I mean, we looked at one. There was a seller that had like a bunch of 85s with archival cases at one point last year, pre the population report coming back, and the 85 went for like $450. I mean, it's crazy. Now that the population report's out, for the more common figures, and you could maybe argue this is not a common figure, but because it's tough to get an 85 for Luke Hoth. But now that the population reports are out and they see that it is, well, let's look it up now and see what that one was. Luke Skywalker Hoth, Hong Kong. So in an 85, there's 223 of them. There's 12 85 pluses and only 14 90s. So 223 of them, it's not rare, right? It's not really that rare. And, but I feel like you just don't see it that much in an 85. Anyway, I think that might be why, is that you look at that people can look at the population report now, see that there's 223 of them out there. Why pay $450 like they used to go for last year in an 85? So just an interesting side note. Here's a letter on Saber Hilt Obi-Wan in an 85. That one sold for $342. And then, this is a weird dichotomy versus the Vader. So the Vader had a lettered Saber Hilt. It sold for $280, which is about $30 more than a non-lettered hilt. This one was admittedly a different hair color, right? This one is what looks to be the light gray. It might be, it's the white hair. So the white hair, 85. Now, the gray hair, this is the dark gray hair, 85. That one was listed for $250, best offer accepted, but it was a regular saber, not a lettered hilt saber. So you can't really compare apples to apples on this, but because one of them's white hair and one of them's the darker gray hair. But I did want to at least show that kind of price dichotomy for lettered saber versus non-lettered saber. Next up is a Luke X-Wing in an 85. That's another one that seems to have come back down a little bit. This was an archival case too, and it only sold for $227.50. So I think people now, if the smart buyers, the smart bidders are looking at the population report for these 85 grades and saying, okay, well, it's not that hard to find one, so I shouldn't overbid too much. It's the 85 pluses and 90s where I think it really comes into play on those big numbers. And maybe that's what happens over time, is that, the 85s tend to be ignored by the big money collectors, and they go after 85 pluses and 90s because there's just so few of them. But there's not enough of them to satisfy the demand, right, for all the collectors that are out there. And so, like me, I tend to settle for 85s because I'm perfectly happy with a near mint plus 85. But there are discerning collectors out there that won't bother with an 85. They just want 85 pluses and 90s or higher even sometimes. And that's okay. We all collect differently, but you got to budget for that, right? It's just very, very expensive once you start getting into all 90s. I kind of equate it to, like, if you're a comic collector, getting a 9.8. A 9.8 is like an 85. But if you're a 9.9 collector, you're going to be paying a big multiple, right? So, and it's not exactly the same because a 9.9 is like sometimes can be very almost impossible to find or non-existent. But it's kind of that mindset, right? Is that an 85 Yoda, Orange Snake, that used to be, let's say, 220 to 230. This one in an auction sold for 158. So the common stuff in high grade, in 85 grade, I mean, it's not high grade, but high enough, has really come down in price, I feel like, over the last year or so. And it feels like, to me anyway, I have no idea if I'm right, but it just feels like to me that since the population reports are now accessible to us, that 85s have dropped a lot. And it probably should, right? Now that we know that there's 250 of them, of these out here, it makes sense that they should drop a little bit. Here is an 85 grade Imperial Gunner. That one sold for $320. That was an older case style. Good candidate to buy and get recased. And I sent this one out to my Patreon supporters in an auction alert. And I said, hey, this is if you get it for a cheap enough price, and I would argue that 321 is, that's a good candidate to send in to get recased, because the recasing doesn't take long. It's not expensive. Probably more likely than not going to keep the 85 grade. And I think you add some value to it by putting it in an archival, updated style case. So that's my personal opinion on that. At the right price. It's got to be at the right price. Here are a couple of poppies that Gold Star Tech sold. This was an 85 plus for the Hoth Rebel Soldier. That one sold for $626. Good buy there. I was tempted on that one. I wanted to bid on that so bad. And then here's an 80 grade for Luke X-Wing. That one sold for $830. Again, probably about right, about where I expected. I was thinking $800 to $850, so it's kind of right in that line there. 85s for the Luke X-Wing Poppy are very pricey. They can be, I'd say, $1,200 to $1,300 pretty easily. I didn't look up what the 85 sold for on Hakes most recently, but I bet it was in that ballpark, $1,300 or so. A few more before we wrap things up. I do have two Uzes, and these are graded by AFA. They are qualified grade, and they do not have the weapon. So this was an AFA 80 Turkish bootleg Uze, and that's SB Products is the name of the company. These were made in 1988, and this qualified grade from AFA only sold for $380. That was a good deal, really good deal, I feel like there. And then here was another one. This is a qualified grade, no weapon Uze for the AT-AT driver, and that was a 75 grade. I was tempted to bid on that one to match with my overstock example. That one sold for $405, and that was kind of right in line. I think I sent this out to my Patreon supporters in an auction alert, and I said I would probably aim for $450 at most. So $405, I think, was a very fair deal for that one. But I wanted to show those two because those are, you know, AFA does not grade Turkish bootlegs very often. Especially qualified grade where there's no weapon. I don't even know if they still do that anymore. But I just wanted to point those two examples out that did sell in an auction. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look, and I'm not sure. I'm going to go back and look to see if the spreadsheets actually showed up on screen, because we'll do that more often maybe as we see AFA 85 pluses and 90s sell on eBay during these price guides and kind of compare them to the population report. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.